Stereo mix.
Okay, a little bit dark here, it looks to me, huh?
Yeah, it's a little dark.
If you wanna, yeah, you can brighten up if you got.
Okay. I think we should be good on YouTube.
YouTube,
now.
how's it look? Or how's it sound now? Can you hear
Oh,
us?
Fuck me, dude.
Didn't record it. Didn't. It's good now.
All right, Lou, I'm going to start this back from the top, and I'm going to make it like...
Let's roll it.
I'm going to make it a lot faster, if that's okay.
Just have one of your people read the transcript. And we'll,
Let's see. I'm not even... Okay, now I'm recording everywhere. Okay, we're the Brohio podcast is going to do this again. We're here with Lou Velosi.
We were just too excited to get to talking to him, man. We didn't roll half our shit.
Retired, ATF, Undercover, fucking everything in the entire world. Coolest dude in the entire world. We just got done telling us. We just pretty much got done virtually blowing this guy for 10 minutes, and now we have to start all over again. But Lou, thanks for being on the show, man.
appreciate it, man. For my third, this is my third time technically.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly.
Dude, I feel
Much appreciated, man.
I don't ever like. I was off everywhere. I had everything fucked up. I'm not ever this bad.
Once I saw you pull up our recording software and start recording halfway through, I'm like, oh, fuck, well, now's a good time to tell him the YouTube audio's not working too.
Oh my god, dude.
Oh, it's okay. It's Monday.
Like we said before, this is Lou's second time on the show. Lou
2.5.
2.5. Lou recently come out with a book, Storefront Sting, an ATF agent's life undercover. We talked about the book for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I told him what an awesome fucking book it was, and how he does a good job of capturing his emotions and the way he was feeling at the time, and you get a good feeling for what he was going through. You do a good job of putting the reader there right beside you. And I just want to compliment you on the accomplishment of the book.
Man, I appreciate it. You know, to put my story out there, I really couldn't hide any aspects of it, which I wanted to. But you know, people love to see someone kind of reach the top of their profession, or you know, or whatever it is they do, and just as much they love to see them fall.
Yeah.
Which is what happened to me. And, you know, there was people around me who enjoyed that fall. And, you know, so I wrote about it. I put it in there, and, you know, my struggles, my successes, my failures, I just threw it all in there. And, you know, I really tried to make the book more about these long-term undercover operations that were very unique than about me.
Sure.
But, you know, it's almost impossible you can't really separate yourself from it, you know, and what you went through, and, you know, the house of cards that I was living in. So it worked out. And like you said, it's a fast read. You know, I have people call me and say, man, you know, I blew through it in about 3 hours and 15 minutes, and it was awesome. So yeah, I love hearing that.
I told Lou I kind of was pretty familiar with the first half of his story. So I started in the middle of the book, and it kind of picked up, you know, towards the end of what I knew about Lou. And I had half the book done in an hour and 45 minutes. I'm not, you know, you can probably tell I'm a strong eater, not a strong reader, if you feel me.
You're not on the speed reading team, huh?
No, I'm not. And my wife does.
He does a lot of sounding out.
My wife gets so mad because we'll be laying in bed and she'll be like, babe, read this. And she'll hold it up and I'm like, fuck. It takes me about 20 minutes to read something.
I do the same exact
and
thing.
She's like, are you still reading that? I'm like, yeah, fucking give me a second. Hold the shit still. Like, I'm not. And she, you know, blows through. She's a wordsmith. That's fine. I'm a lot bigger than her, and if I need to bounce her around, that's what's going to go down. Now, Lou, we've kind of got, if everyone wants to go back to our first episode with Lou, he kind of lays everything out up to the end, and then he leaves a cliffhanger. He says, if you guys want to know more, you got to have me back on the show. But a lot's changed since then. Lou's put out a book. He's got some other stuff going on. I don't know if you can talk about the other stuff or not, maybe.
Yeah. You know, my book went out and it did really well. Thank God. And it did what I was hoping it would do, it started generating interest, and I started getting contacted by producers, and so after doing the rounds and going through a bunch of interviews with Hollywood types, um, I the book was optioned by a major company,
Wow.
a company called LBI, owned by Rick Yorn out in Hollywood. If you look him up, he manages DiCaprio and Martin Scorsese, and Scarlett Johansson. So I landed with the right people.
Hell
for
yeah,
sure.
you did.
That's
And
great.
they kind of have the same vision that I had for this, in that it would be a series, a scripted series, with each storefront operation being a season, and then rolling into the next one. With the different cast would be the different undercover team that I used for each operation, and all the shit that went down during these operations, the good, the bad, the ugly, the successes, the failures, and the end results, which were thousands of guns,
Yeah.
crime guns removed from our streets. So, and as far as I'm concerned, you could say whatever you want, about these operations. The OIG certainly had plenty to say about them. Congress has had plenty to say about them, but they made our streets safer, man, while we were doing them. Thousands of crime guns off the streets, out of the hands of trigger pullers and gangbangers
And that's
cartels.
one thing I want to distinguish, and we talked about this the first time, Lou, is you got a lot of neck breathers that say, oh, ATF's just stealing your fucking guns. But the ATF isn't out to take guns from, me and law-abiding citizens that just keep guns. They're taking the guns from fucking criminals that are robbing gas stations, that are shooting up houses by your kid's school. They're doing shit like that. So you guys really are doing the Lord's work,
Yeah, I mean, people, I don't know. I guess ATF's always been a good doorstop, a good, rallying point for people who just hate the government. And believe me, I understand that, hating the government. But, you think about it, it's a tiny agency. We got a little over 2,000 agents, right, for the whole country.
Wow.
And no one's, almost every agent I ever worked with was an NRA member. We're all huge Second Amendment supporters. I never in my career, went out and, took a gun from anyone who had the right to carry it.
Yeah.
It's
not the way it works.
Go after gangs, gangs, crime guns, drugs, cartels. That's who we were going after. Not Joe Citizen. And when you say we were doing the Lord's work, I truly believe that. We were getting the crime guns, the stolen guns, the guns that were illegal in and of themselves, with obliterated serial numbers, modified guns, fully automatic, sawed-off shotguns, those kind of things. That's what we were going after. No one was knocking on doors to take away, good United States citizens' guns, man.
Yeah, and that what some people just are fucking stupid and have a hard time understanding that.
And listen, I got plenty of bad shit to say about ATF, but that's not one of them.
Okay. I guess this kind of rolls into my next question before we get going too quick here. Out of all the gangs and the Chicago Mafia and the Hells Angels and the cartel, which group of dudes that you dealt with where you were like, God damn, these guys don't fuck around? Because I remember when I was, I worked in a maximum security prison, and we had the Aryan Brotherhood, we had the Gangster Disciples, the Bloods, the Crips,
MS-18s or
the MS-13s.
13s. That's
but
it.
The MS-13s, those guys, they would kill someone. You wouldn't even know. Like you just those guys are wild. But I kind of, in my experience, those guys, I was like, oh, I'm good. You guys can do what you want. I guess speaking for you, was there a certain gang or mafia that you dealt with? You're like, God, these guys are a little more ruthless than the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, with most things in our country, other countries took what we do, even crime, and made it better, right?
Sure.
So, without a doubt, the Mexican cartels, and I have to throw MS-13 in there, even though they're El Salvadorian. Some of the Central American gangs and the Mexican cartels are without a doubt the most cold-blooded, ruthless killers I ever encountered and worked with.
Yeah.
Those guys, they were desensitized to killing. Violence and killing to them is a way of life. That's how they grow up. It's hard for Americans to even understand where they come from, and what their lives were, and how they could become so desensitized to murder. Hands down, the cartel guys they were the baddest boys on the block.
Did you ever have to do face-to-face undercover stuff with the cartel at all?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
probably put a diamond in your butt and poop out a put a piece of coal in your butt and fart out a diamond.
Yeah, man. I mean, they're bad dudes, and I tell you what, it's any other criminal organization. If they think maybe you're a Fed, or they find they're gonna disassociate, and they don't want to bring any heat on themselves and run away. These cartel guys, man, they don't care. They'll find out who you are, and they'll kill your family.
They'll just light you up. Yeah.
Yeah,
there's the whole dark section of the internet where it's like you get all the dark videos and stuff, like the real graphic, like gore content. And I think like anytime I've ever came across something that's like, I'm like, oh fuck, I can't watch that. It's almost always cartel related videos, and it's just just like you said, the amount of like just gruesomeness and like their complete detachment of like what it is what things you can do to other humans. It's uncanny.
Yeah, and here's the sad part. Back when I was running the streets and we were allowed to do things, right, and we were allowed to go out there and do what needed to be done, we at least had those guys looking over their shoulder, right? They respected us. I'm not going to say they feared us, but they were looking over their shoulder. They were worried about us.
Yeah.
With today's climate, they're not even looking over their shoulders.
They don't fucking care.
They are running unchecked.
That's even like even more intimidating and scary. It's like they just don't fucking care. Like fuck it. If it happens, it happens.
Fear the power of the United States government. That was the one thing they feared. Even go way back. Pablo Escobar feared the power of the U.S. government. Right? Extradition was his worst nightmare. Not anymore. No. That's over.
Yeah, I feel like
we've allowed that to happen.
I feel like that, and I feel like they're probably those low dudes are probably more afraid of their higher ups than they are of getting locked up.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, they've created such a ruthless organization that it's like if they get locked up for murder, for whatever, I mean it's a lot less what's going to happen to them if they get turned over to their own people.
They have everything to lose.
Not only them, but what's going to happen to their family.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so they've created that through fear and intimidation, extortion, and we're letting them just run unchecked in our country. They're here. The cartels. They're here.
They're here. Like we had I don't know if it ever crossed your eyes, but we had the Pike County murders here in Ohio, and it was Pike County is this podunk trailer park town way on the outskirts of Ohio, and there was a family that lived in like multiple trailers in a trailer park, and just one day they were all fucking dead. Like all their they were all just dead, and the only people they didn't kill were like a couple babies at the trailer. But the first thing the Ohio the Bureau of Crime or whatever, they pointed, it says the cartel, and all these hillbillies were just dealing marijuana, but they immediately thought they were dealing marijuana in the cartel's territory, and they thought the cartel came to rural Ohio, a trailer park, and whacked all these fucking people. Well, come to find out it was a family member, but they immediately said the cartel we know they're here in rural Ohio. I'm thinking, all the places they are.
I mean, they are, and it does happen. Yeah. It's happening here now.
Now, when you've been laying in bed at night dreaming about this big Hollywood takeoff that's coming, who do you envision if you could pick anybody in the world? I know you've thought about this. Who gets to play Lou Velosi? In a best case scenario, if you get to hand pick the person, for the storefront, whatever's going on, who I say Russell Crowe from Gladiator before he got really fucking fat. But who do you think plays Lou Velosi in this biopic that's coming up?
Russell Crowe, huh?
Gladiator Russell Crowe. Okay. We
Boy,
got to get him to do some squats and shit, some pull-ups,
you know,
and some.
I'd like to see an up and comer, man. Someone they find who's an up and coming actor who could handle it. I guess it depends on what age they're gonna get me at. 50s, 40s, 30s. So it would depend. But a lot of people tell me when they ask me this question that Joe Manganiello would be the guy.
Okay,
who's that?
He was he got real big in
the Vampire Show.
True Blood.
Oh, okay.
True Blood.
Yeah, okay.
He was Alcide.
My wife's a big she's a big fan of that show.
I love True Blood. Yeah,
I gotta put the fucking tarp on the bed when she watches that shit.
He's a very attractive dude. So I mean, yeah, it fits.
He's Italian, he's married to that Sofia Vergara.
Yeah, Sofia Vergara. Yeah,
I'm married to her too. It's strange how that works.
Mentally.
Yeah, she doesn't know it, but
right.
I think that's a solid choice.
Yeah. Now we've kind of already heard about the reception from the book. Everyone, I mean, you're carrying a 5-star review on Amazon, which is impossible to do. I don't. It's that kind of speaks for itself. But how awesome has it been going out to these book signings and kind of meeting fans and meeting followers and stuff?
I tell you, man, it's super cool. I've been going around kind of giving my presentation, telling my story, and mostly I do it at gang conferences. They're long. I kind of been on tour with the Narcos guys, with Javier Pena and Steve Murphy, who I don't know have you guys ever had them on the show?
No, we haven't. We'd love to, but we haven't.
They're the best. They're great guys, man. So we go out and we do our presentations together, and it's just phenomenal, man. Every single, to me, again, it's such an honor, to sign a book for anybody. And I try to at least talk with them and get to know them for a few minutes if I can when I do it. It's just been so great. And, I find the more I do my presentation, the more I enjoy doing it. And I've settled into it, and I've gotten to travel around. I was in San Diego, and I did my presentation in front of about 1,200 cops.
Wow.
Everyone, from corrections, probation, gang cops. It was the Southern California Gang Investigator Conference. And, it's a tough crowd, dude, right? I was the closer on a Friday afternoon. And, when everyone pretty much wants to go to happy hour, right, and get out. So you got to be on your game, because they're a tough crowd. If you get up there and you start flopping, they let you know.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, but it went great, man. It was really cool.
That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that for you. And I know with your kind of putting yourself out there, it opens you up to a lot of stuff. If you just we get unsolicited gay men following us all the time and sending us nasty messages. Have you had to deal with like all these crazy stalker types or anything like that yet, or have you had a pretty easy time fending those people off?
No, I tell you, the only two things I've had is I've had criticism. I've had some criticism from some women, due to what I had said in one of my presentations. That I had made I called it a mistake, and she said that wasn't a mistake; it was a choice. I've heard that a few times. And the other stuff I've gotten is the anti-ATF, right? Which I don't even respond to.
It's fucking stupid. It's not worth you responding to, honestly.
Yeah.
It's just
But
there's always haters out there, man.
Yeah, I mean, but you look back in retrospect, obviously in a situation that you're in, you obviously make a choice, but that doesn't mean that later down the road, it's not something you can look back on and like, well, it may not have been in hindsight the best thing I could have done, but in that moment it was. So I mean, right. It's kind of unfair to even say that. You know what I mean? There's plenty of stuff that I'm sure that both of us have done that, like, in the moment we're like, this feels right, but then afterwards we're like, fuck, like, oops.
I mean, that's life, right?
Exactly, yeah.
We can never run for political office. I will never pass a polygraph test ever again. It's not happening. I'm cool.
Yeah, I'm with you, brother.
I remember I was trying to get out of corrections. I was trying to get hired at a local police department, and the second question on the polygraph, they're like, have you ever beat somebody in handcuffs? And I'm like, like this week or last week? Today? No, I haven't today. But, you know, it's a different, and you understand it's a different world, man. Now, you kind of see things from a different perspective once you create your distance. Now, if I heard somebody was beating somebody in handcuffs, I'd be like, what a fucking bitch. But
yeah,
when you're in there and you're living it, there's no excuse for something like that. But you gotta walk a fucking line that nobody knows about, and it's just it's just different, man. It's hard to explain.
You know, I heard it from someone else, another cop, and it rings so true. They said, listen, if you've never been in a fight for your life in an alleyway with a real bad guy, I don't really care what your thoughts are on police force.
Yeah.
You know, unless you've been there, I don't care what your opinion is. And it's true.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's easy to sit back and criticize, but until you're there doing
until
it,
you're fighting for your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's all. That could be a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me. One more stupid question before we get to the nitty gritty here. You're a pretty tatted up dude, which I like your tattoos. I haven't seen all of them, but did you ever get any of your tattoos in a sketchy situation just to kind of like that undercover role, like maybe in a bathroom, some shit like that, or like someone's kitchen counter?
Man, at least half of them.
That's great.
One, I can't remember which one I got. It was about 4 a.m. I was drunk as shit. I was laying on a filthy pool table, and a 1%er outlaw biker who was also drunk as shit was giving me this awful tattoo on my arm. And I'm sure he didn't take that needle out of a new.
No.
Sure. Yeah.
He took it out of a Bic pen is where he took it.
Right. And that was, I did have one of those moments of clarity while I was drunk. This dude, he's tattooing me, blood stripping everywhere. He's fucked up. I'm fucked up.
He probably had a cigarette in his mouth.
Probably. And I remember he was filthy and smelly.
Yeah.
I just remember thinking, man, I went to college, man.
For what?
Good parents. What the hell am I doing right now?
What made me lay on this pool table?
I was thinking a bathroom or a kitchen counter. Like, no, I was laid up on a pool table.
Filthy pool table. Yep.
Oh,
that's
man.
great.
That gives, I guess, new meaning to dirty pool, as as Mr. Lou told us about in the last episode.
Yeah. Yeah, there was others, man. The first storefront operation I did was a tattoo shop, and the tattoo artist, and I use that term loosely. He was so bad. I tell this story in the book. At the beginning, this guy came in, and he was an OG, an old banger. His son had just been murdered in a dope deal, right?
Wow.
So he had a picture of his son, and it was the typical, thug picture with the hundreds fanned out and a gun in one hand.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And,
rest in peace,
so
dog.
he wanted that tattooed on his shoulder, with like R.I.P. Pookie underneath.
Yeah.
Whatever. And so our tattoo guy said, yeah, man, I got you. And he started and I remember about like 3/4 through the tattoo, I just went over to check on the progress. And I remember looking at it, and it looked nothing like it did in the picture. I mean, nothing.
It's fucked up.
Did Pookie dirty.
So I'm thinking, man, there's going to be a shooting or a stabbing or just an all-out fist fight in here when this dude sees this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, when he gets done, and he cleans it off, and he tells the guy, all right, go look in the mirror. The guy gets up. I'm like, here it comes. I'm ready to go for my gun. And this guy walks over, he looks in the mirror, and he's like, man, that's a fucking bastard. I was like, God, we're dealing with a lower quality here.
Yeah.
And I told myself, I said, I will never let this dude tattoo me. And, that didn't last long, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So he gave me about 3 tattoos, and they were all, I remember going home, my wife going, "What? I don't even know what the fuck that is." What is it?
That's great.
Well, I was gonna be like, do you have any tattoos where you're like, man, what the fuck is this? But you just answered that question for me. It sounds like
That's awesome.
that's good.
Sometimes the story is just as important as the work itself. I feel like that passes up anything, any other meaning they could possibly have. I think that's pretty fucking cool.
Well, I actually brought a picture of my wife to another guy during the case, and I just told him, I didn't tell his wife. I just said, "Hey man, I want this chick tattooed on me," and it's this one right here.
Okay.
He did it.
I can see it.
And so, maybe probably not with the camera. I can see it too good. So, I went home and I showed my wife, thinking she was going to be loving on me, and she said, "That looks nothing like me." And my wife's Hispanic. She goes, "That looks like that's an Asian girl. What the fuck's an Asian girl?" Yeah.
Try to do something nice, man.
I know it, man.
We're never right. We're never right.
It's called artistic freedom.
It is.
Right.
Yeah. When I was 16, almost 17, I wanted to get some fucking barbed wire around my arm because that was the shit, and I was playing football, and I wanted to be that dude that was playing middle linebacker with my shit hanging, they're like, "God damn, he's fucking high school, he's got a tattoo." And I asked my mom and dad, and they were like, "Get the fuck out of here." And I'm like, okay, I got to figure out something. And I was going into the Marine Corps. That was my plan. And my mom was just tore up over it. She couldn't stand it. And I come to her one night and I said, "If you guys sign off for me to get a tattoo, I'll axe this Marine Corps shit." And she looked at my dad. My dad's name's Ashley. She said, "Take him right now. Take him." She made me fucking sign my name on loose leaf paper and shit. Like, "I will not go into the Marine Corps."
Like it's contractually binding.
Sign that shit in crayon.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and to this day, she'll like, if we'll be at a family gathering, she'll come up and start patting me on the arm, and she'll be like, I'm happy to have you here, sweetie," and she'll give me a kiss.
That's so sweet.
Dude, that's a strong story, though.
It's
man.
the dumbest fucking tattoo ever.
The tattoo may be stupid, but like what it means is like, that's great.
Yeah. They're still, well, now I'm too old, so she won. I can't go.
The Marines aren't taking you.
No.
Be like, "We'll take half of you."
Right.
Can't do. Well, I kind of.
Son?
Yeah. Oh no, Rob's got a bunch of those. I got 3 girls. He's got 3 sons. It's a fucking nightmare, dude. It's just
that's one of the things my wife is worried about. She's like, "I don't want them to go into the military." I'm like, "Yeah, it's
yeah, it's all right, man."
Yeah.
And we pried at Lou a little bit, asking if he could maybe share some tales that he hadn't really talked about very much, or possibly wasn't in the book.
Yeah.
And he said, "You know what? I'm thinking about it. My first big organized event I was working on. That would be a good one to start on." So let's talk about that for a second, Lou, and then we'll kind of move into the other half of our story. But yeah, tell us about that first cherry popping situation that you dealt with there.
You start out, at least I did, what I think is the right way, working undercover, doing quick hits. Basically, getting introduced through an informant, to a bad guy, someone who's selling dope, selling guns. And you go in and you make a buy, whether it's a sawed-off shotgun or a stolen gun, and you give government money in exchange, and maybe you'll make a couple buys off this person, maybe just one, and then you'll get a warrant and he'll get arrested, right? And that's basically how you start out. That's how you get your feet wet. We call them quick hits. But you want to build, most people do. I did. I wanted to work my way into these long-term infiltrations, and to get, RICO statutes and conspiracy statutes, and to kind of make a difference on these organizations. And so the first one that I really did on my own, that I ran, I was kind of a guest in some other ones, but the first one that I did was here in Georgia. And it was a crazy situation where just answering the phone, sometimes just being in the office and answering the phone could get you a good case. And I just happened to answer the phone, and it was actually a game warden from one of the military bases here in Georgia. And he said, "Listen, man, I got this guy who I caught him hunting on the base with an AR-15, and he's a convicted felon. He's been arrested.
Ooh.
You know, he has a conviction by the DEA.
Wow.
So he said, you know, he wants to talk to someone. He doesn't want to, you know, he doesn't want to go back to prison. He's got information." So I said, "Yeah, man, I'll come. I'll talk to him." And he goes, "Will you take the gun?" You know, because everyone wants to push off evidence on someone else, right?
Yeah.
Not do the paperwork. I said, "Yeah, I'll take the gun." So I went out there and I talked to this guy, and he said, "Listen, so they're in this one area here in Savannah. Outside of Savannah was a place called Ogeechee Farms, which was it was the projects on wheels. It was this huge trailer park, the size of a city, right? We called it projects on wheels. I mean, there was just nothing but meth, crystal meth, guns, and bad things happening." And this guy said to me, "Listen, man, I can't go back to prison." He goes, "I will give you every motherfucker in Ogeechee Farm." I said, "Okay." You know, you got to go when you go to bat for someone like that. You know, there's a lot of paperwork, and you got to ask for a lot of favors to, you know, to keep them out. You know, get them working. And so he was my in. And you know, we made an arrangement. You know, that he was going to be able to get me introduced, you know, to the heavy hitters in this place. And we found out that there was an actual hierarchy, and there was an organization to what was going on in there. And man, they were selling guns, they were selling kilos, cocaine, mostly meth, you know, crystal meth, cocaine, heroin. They even were dabbling in crack out there. And so he just started introducing me to some of the main players. And eventually I was able to just phase them out. I didn't need them. Once I got in, and I brought my partner in, and we started bouncing around, we made our own name in there. And, you know, we bought about 10 guns, started buying some meth, identifying the people. You know, we had the whole charts in the room like you see on TV, you know, with the mug shots and what they sold us. And we started doing link analysis and all that. Then we got up to 30, 40 guns, 50 guns, and the dope was just coming in. And pretty soon that chart was taking up a whole wall. And, you know, we understood who was supplying who was answering to who. And man, these were Georgia crackers. I mean, there were some bad dudes.
Yeah.
And that's how they were making their living. They were just putting guns on the street, dope on the street. Just, you know, dudes with bad intentions, man. And we saw how they were kind of operating as an organization. You know, they didn't necessarily have a name, but they kind of had a structure, and you knew who was where, you know, in the organization. And after probably 6 or 7 months, you know, we had a lot of guns on the table, and as much dope as we could handle. We were actually running out of money, evidence money.
Jeez.
And when I looked at that wall, I sat back and I was like, wow, you know, we went from, you know, starting out making a few buys off a few individuals to we infiltrated a little empire here, you know, a little criminal empire. And, you know, when we wrapped it up, you know, we indicted everybody, and wrapped it up, and the marshals and the ATF SWAT team took the warrants and executed them all at once, man, and just went in there and just blew doors in and locked everybody up. And you know, so that was my first long-term infiltration. Even though, you know, I wasn't living with these guys, you know, I was just spending a lot of my time over there and just doing deals. And kind of had made it known, you know, that I was trafficking these guns up to New York and making a ton of money off.
Yeah.
So that was my first real taste. And that case, it won an award. It won, I think, Gun Case of the Year award with
Nice.
Project Safe Neighborhoods, which is the Department of Justice program. And that gave me my first taste of these long-term infiltrations. And I would go on from there to do much deeper infiltrations, where I was actually away from home and living with these guys. But that's the one really, and it was not a sophisticated organization, man. Like I said, these were Georgia crackers, man. But they were moving a ton of dope. They were putting a lot of guns on the street, and they had bad intentions. And the feeling I had after that case, I was like, this is what I want to do. I don't want to do necessarily the nickel and dime quick hits anymore. I want to just do these long-term infiltrations. And that's really where it all started, right there.
How long of an infiltration was that one? Did it last from start to end, I guess?
That was about 7 months.
7 months. Now, was there ever a situation where, you did that one in, I think you said it was in Georgia someplace. I guess when you moved to a different project or a different storefront, were there ever any similar characters that you dealt with on other, I guess, undercover gigs that you would see in other places?
You talking about overlap with the bad guys?
Yeah, I guess.
Kind of. Very little. The third storefront I did way down in South Georgia. A former defendant walked into the store. And it's funny because you don't necessarily recognize. I mean, there's so many of them. 99% of them I wouldn't recognize.
Yeah,
but they all remember you.
Mm-hmm.
They remember you. You're the last face they see before the marshals bring them to prison. So, a guy walked in, and I looked at him, and I knew he looked familiar. And the more I looked at him, it came to me who he was. But he was glossy-eyed, and he was, whatever he was using, he was spaced out.
He was fucked up.
So I was able to, there was other undercovers there, and I told one of them, I said, man, this guy, I know he's on federal supervised release because he just got out a few months ago.
Wow.
And I was able to kind of slip into the back, and he didn't do any criminal business in there with them. And then there was a guy who, some of my partners who were in Miami came up to help us on our second storefront, and they did a home invasion crew with us, and they looked at the storefront and they were like, oh my God, we could do this down in Miami, and we would kill it. So they basically just they did one down there. We sent them a lot of the merchandise and stuff, and they did almost the same exact thing down. It was actually in the Lauderdale area, their first one. And they were open one day. They were killing it, man. They bought a ton of guns. And one day this guy comes in and he looks around the store. He looks at the guys behind the counter and he goes, man, this looks just like a store in Statesboro, Georgia.
Oh, shit.
He goes, and you know what? He goes, it was an undercover ATF sting. And my brother went to prison, man. He sold them a bunch of guns, and he's in prison right now. He goes, these are even the same shirts they were selling.
Oh, fuck.
And he goes, I'm looking at these motherfuckers behind the counter here, man. He goes, those got to be undercover ATF agents. And they were like, get the fuck out of here. What the fuck are you talking about? When he left, they were like, yeah. So but that was very rare, man, that there was overlap. Because the guys we arrested most of the guys I arrested are still in federal prison.
Yeah.
He said these are the same fucking shirts.
Get the fuck out of here.
It's the same fucking shirts they were selling up there.
Oh, man, that's great.
He was right. He was right about everything.
And for those of you that didn't listen to the first episode, Lou ran these storefronts with the ATF where they would create almost like a facade. They would open up a business, so like a head shop where he was selling, you guys would open up a legit business selling bongs and tobacco, pipes. But then as the customers started to come in, you started to get some unsavory characters where they would want to sell you an illegal gun or some dope. And then Lou and the crew would make these buys and ultimately take these guys off the streets. But I was watching the documentary, the Mojave documentary today. I don't know if you're peddling that or not. It was Okay. But there
You can
was,
watch it on YouTube. Anyone can watch it on YouTube now. We released it.
yeah, it was. I didn't realize that you guys were kind of creating like, I knew that you were opening up these shops, but you guys are taking like a bong shop and putting pool tables, Xboxes, and fucking video games, so these guys could come in, and they wouldn't just come in to buy a bong. They would come in and chill out, play pool, play video games, just chill. And then once you start to get comfortable in a situation like that, you're like, okay.
You start running your mouth a little bit.
Run your mouth, start to trust the people you're in there with. And that's, I just wanted to put that out there for the listeners, because some people are probably just joining in that didn't necessarily listen to the first time. But that was your MO, Lou, and that's how you took these guys off the streets. It was an excellent tactic, and there's lots of good tales in our first episode, and then a lot of good stuff in the book as well, if people want to go pick up the book.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, there was kind of an evolution with these operations. They started out very street level operations, just to get guns off the street, crime guns, and we evolved, from the tattoo shops and the head shops to military surplus store with a firing range, a shooting range attached to it, to import-export business, to where I was a freight forwarder, shipping goods, to South America. And we kept stepping our game up, and we were dealing with not just street-level guys anymore. We were dealing with cartel guys, international gun traffickers. So we definitely stepped up our game with every operation.
A military surplus store with a firing range.
Yeah, man, it was badass.
That's crazy.
So then you've officially worked up from the street-level dope dealers, and you're getting the white-collar dudes with some money that are actually think they're skating around justice because they're not street-level dope dealers and stealing guns out of people's cabinets. You're actually dealing with guys that have heavy-duty illegal shit, and that's good shit, man.
Yeah, the results speak for themselves, man. They were, although much criticized, they were incredibly successful operations.
Yeah, and I'll say it. You guys take like machine guns and shit while doing the military surplus stuff?
Did we buy machine guns?
Did you guys take machine guns off the street?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And what's the fucking point of having a machine gun? Like being a citizen in like suburban Dayton, Ohio. There's no reason. Savannah, Georgia. There's just I don't really see a reason for someone to have a goddamn machine gun.
Yeah. I
understand you got to protect yourself from the government, which I get, but
you ain't trying to bring down dragons. I mean,
no, man. I applaud you guys, because that's a job that has to be done. Some people just think, people's rights are being infringed upon, but that's not the case. We have fucking laws. You can't have a goddamn bazooka launched in your basement. Why should you? Why should we have a machine gun?
Well, here's how I always address those issues. I'm a Second Amendment supporter.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to, NFA weapons, which a machine gun falls under the National Firearms Act, those kinds of weapons, you can apply to have a machine gun, and people get them.
Mm-hmm.
You can. First of all, ATF doesn't make any gun laws. ATF doesn't make laws. A federal agency doesn't have power to make laws.
You just enforce
Congress
them.
Congress makes the laws. The agencies just enforce them.
Yeah.
So, like anyone who bitches about ATF and about gun laws, ATF has nothing to do with gun laws.
Yep.
It's Congress that makes gun laws. And you can apply if you want a short-barreled shotgun, a short-barreled rifle, a silencer, a machine gun. You can apply and pay your SOT, your tax, and go through, it's a rigorous background check, but people get them. People get the tax stamp to have a machine gun, to have a silencer. It's got to be signed off on by not only ATF, but by the head law enforcement official in whatever jurisdiction you live in. So, there's a way to do it. It can be done. It's not easy. But, the majority of people out there running around with machine guns, they haven't applied for for any kind of
no, there's no paperwork.
SOT.
Yeah, there's
So
they didn't go through the legal means.
yeah, and you know, when you think about it, when it comes to short barrel shotguns and silencers, you know, they're pretty much there really isn't any kind of even self-defense.
You're not shooting
use
fucking
for
clays with a sawed-off shotgun.
yeah, I mean, if you have bad, you know, a silencer, basically you gotta have bad intentions if you're going to use a silencer, right? There's a reason why.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want anybody hearing the round going off in your gun. That's not self-defense. You know?
Yeah, definitely makes sense, right?
And
Again, I'm a Second Amendment supporter, but there's got to be limits.
Sure.
Yeah. And so am I. And I'm 99.9% of the time, I'm, you know, I have my shit on me, just like in Indianapolis yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
There was going to be a mass shooting. So a lot of people were going to die. That guy had full intentions of killing dozens of people. But someone in the food court, a 22-year-old guy, had a license to carry a concealed firearm. He stood up in the middle of the fucking food court and he shot
Smoked
this dude
him.
and killed him. So now all of the kids, all of the adults that would have died, unfortunately, I think 4 people have died. You just have to be prepared for you. You know what? The person next to me may fucking hate guns, but if I save their life, they're going to be thankful. They're not going to be upset that you shot and killed someone that was about to blow their brains out. They were, you know, it's just the world works in strange ways, man. And like we said when we were kind of chatting off the side, you can't make everybody happy, unfortunately.
No, you can't.
So let's transition into last time we talked. We went through your storefront operations. You kind of took us through everything. One thing we didn't really touch a lot on is there towards the end you started doing the freight handling stuff. And if I'm correct in my timeline, that kind of was towards the end of your career, if I'm correct.
That was the end.
Okay.
Yes.
And you were working as a freight forwarding I don't know if you owned a business, or can you tell us a little bit more about the freight forwarding that you're doing and I guess the criminal element that you guys were trying to unfold?
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible setup, man. It was a huge warehouse. I can't remember the size, but it was an incredibly huge warehouse with business offices attached to it that we had decked out with, like, it looked like we were international businessmen, you know, with masks from Africa and South American shit. I mean, it was impressive.
Yeah.
And then a warehouse with just lined up with merchandise with multiple forklifts running all the time, container trucks coming in and out. We had 3 businesses in one. We were a freight forwarder. We were a import exporter, a courier business to Colombia, country of Colombia, and a wholesale tobacco warehouse. So we had all this going on in one warehouse. We had an electronics room with the flat screen TVs and all that stuff, where we did all of our deals, most of our deals, because that's where our best surveillance was.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, we didn't have to sell much. If you walked in there, you weren't thinking this was a law enforcement operation. We were on the ports. I mean, that's how legitimate it was. And because, you know, we weren't driving hoopties, man. We were driving Jaguars and Mercedes-Benz and BMWs. We were playing the part.
Yeah.
And that allowed us to infiltrate a higher level. We got into organizations, Bolivian gun traffickers.
Wow.
Got into the biggest stolen car ring on the eastern seaboard at the time, which was operating out of New York City. We were, you know, now we weren't buying ounces. We were at the kilo level now. We weren't buying Saturday night specials as much as we were buying, you know, modified AR-15s and, you know, big time guns.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the glory table, I call it, where we line up all the guns for the press release afterward, you know, it wasn't a bunch of you know, Lorson or High Point 9mm. Now it was $5,000-$6,000 guns on that table, AKs, ARs, all that, and that's because we were dealing with a higher level of criminal, man. We were getting RICO, criminal conspiracy convictions, RICO statutes now.
Going to
So
jail.
yeah, man, we stepped our game up, and we took out some guys who were doing really bad stuff, and just putting guns out on the street, moving guns around, putting them in cartel hands and all that. And it's definitely the operation that I'm most proud of every case that I've done. It was definitely like, I didn't know it was going to be my last at the time, but it was a good one to end on if there had to be one to end on.
Sure. Now, off the top of your head, do you know kind of how many accolades and awards you received over the years?
Yeah, just the Department of Justice Project Safe Neighborhood Gang Investigation of the Year. That was one of the storefronts, Augusta. The Project Safe Neighborhood, again, Department of Justice Gun Case of the Year. OCDF, which is the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, which is where DEA gets most of its funding on their big cases. OCDF Case of the Year, which was a big one.
Nice.
United States Attorney's Office Law Enforcement Officer of the Year.
Hell yeah, man.
That's awesome.
And a lot of ATF awards that I received. I was on a roll, man. And the only thing that mattered to me toward the end of each operation was the beginning of the next operation. I was hitting it.
Well, that's a good segue into, I guess, the beginning of the end. And we kind of said in the beginning, if there's anything you don't want to touch on, we ain't got to talk about it, man. We've already got an hour worth of content right here, but kind of maybe take us through what you can say. All of it's in the book, but
Yep.
Take us through kind of what started to happen, or that you started to see the dominoes fall, and not necessarily your direction.
Yeah, so the line that I usually use when I do my presentations is, and the only reason I bring up the awards is that I was receiving all those awards and accolades, but the awards I wasn't receiving was Father of the Year, Husband of the Year, Friend of the Year, because I had become consumed with this undercover life, and I was living in a house of cards, man. It had led to a lot of personal bad behavior. I had become a lot more Sal Nunziato than I was Lou Velosi. It led to excessive drinking, just fast living like a criminal does.
Which you had to, really, which is crazy.
It's almost like a method acting type deal. You fall into that so hard, it's kind of hard to pull yourself away.
Yeah, and like my friend Jay Dobbins likes to say, we took the law very serious, and we never crossed that line. But unfortunately, we took ATF policies and procedures as mere suggestions, and that's kind of how we rolled, because going home alive and making a good case was more important to us than some ATF policy.
Sure.
So it also led, unfortunately, to me being unfaithful to my wife, and unfortunately, it was with a federal prosecutor who was prosecuting some of these cases, and that's what led to ultimately the demise of my career, and all of a sudden finding myself on the under investigation. The U.S. Attorney's Office was none too happy about this, as you can imagine.
Sure.
And they called in the OIG, Office of Inspector General. I found myself under investigation. And it was kind of weird, because I was still on the job, obviously not working undercover anymore, but, because of the nature of the accusation, it found its way to the front page of the papers and on the internet.
Stressful fucking time that probably was for you, man.
And they were going after us. They were directing the OIG's investigation. Basically, just find something.
Was this all stemming from? Was this all stemming from the freight forwarder undercover thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. You know, when that information came out, and they went for blood. They just, you know, that's obviously not a crime, but they figured that there must be something, because you know they didn't want to look bad. They wanted someone to pay, you know, for this bad press and all that. So they looked. OIG went back 10 years into my career, and
wow.
You know, after being in control for decades and running these operations and being in total control of everything, I found myself, I wasn't in control of anything. I was helpless. My life crashed. I was worried about obviously my reputation, which had already taken a hit, my pension, right? My job, my health insurance for my kids, even my freedom, right? If I was to get indicted.
Yeah.
And obviously my marriage, my family. So I went through a couple of years of just pure hell mentally. I lost 50 pounds. I had suicidal thoughts. I knew they were going to get me. You know, undercover work is a gray area, and they were digging into everything. All my finances. You know, I basically knew what they were doing because that's what I did to people, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's what I did. I went into every aspect of someone's life when I was going after them. And, you know, I knew the people who were going after me. They get who they want. You know, the U.S. Attorney's Office, probably the most powerful entity in this country, right? They take down politicians. They took down Martha Stewart, right? They take down senators and congressmen and the heads of mafia. And so I'm like, you know, who am I? If they really want me, and it seemed they did, you know, they're going to get me on something.
Yeah.
You know, and their go-to was always false statements. When they can't find anything concrete, the federal government's go-to is false statements or perjury, right? They'll pour through every form you've ever filled out, which is what they did to me. And as a government agent, I can tell you, you fill out thousands of forms, right?
The government paid you to lie for fucking 20 years.
I mean, unbelievable, right? So, you know, that's what they did. And they investigated me for 2.5 years.
Good Lord, that's such a long time.
Yeah, so, you know, ATF had put me on ice. Again, I was a train wreck, man. I was, you know, for the first time in my life, I wasn't in control of anything.
Yeah.
And here I am trying to make up lost ground with my kids and my wife. And you know, my friends. I had lost contact with everyone. I'll say
where you're at right now, you do a good job in the book of kind of conveying the way, like the helplessness and the hopelessness and the despair, man, that you were going through. Because I read through that, and like I felt like my fucking heart was in your chest when I was reading through all that. So for people right now that are like, oh, I'm hearing it right now, while we want everybody listening to read the book, this is a good opportunity to say, hey, this is a really important part of the book where Lou takes you through and makes you feel what he's feeling.
Yeah, I didn't see any way out.
Yeah,
and you know that's when people get suicidal, when there's no way out.
Sure.
And that's how I felt. And you know, I've even had colleagues tell me afterward, they're like, man, you know, you really didn't handle that very well. And I say to them, I said, I get it, but do you know anyone who's ever been through that? I mean, there was no one I could turn to. I couldn't turn to my wife.
There's no fucking right way. There's no book on it. No policy to follow.
There was just no one to turn to it. And, you know, I had to do it alone. I had some of my undercover crew, they stayed with me and made sure I didn't do anything real stupid. But you know, that's a road you got to travel by yourself, man.
Man, yeah.
But like I said, you know, I waited it out, and when it became pretty evident, the U.S. Attorney's Office would not let the investigation die, even when OIG really couldn't come up with anything. They still directed them to keep digging, and you know, just wasting taxpayers' money, right?
Yeah, that's what they do.
Seriously. So I waited until the OIG report, which was a total nothing burger, came out, and they had no findings on me. They didn't find anything I had done wrong. So I waited till that came out because I didn't want to retire prior to that to make it look like I was, guilty of something and just getting out.
It's a good move, dude.
Yeah. So that came out, and so when I was essentially cleared of any wrongdoing, then I pulled the plug and retired. Obviously, my undercover days were over. And I had a lot of ground to make up with my family and my friends.
Yeah.
At that point, and that's where I turned my life to. At that point, is making up lost ground with my wife and my kids, my friends, my family.
Some of you listening to the story here, he mentioned briefly that there was an affair with either the district attorney or the assistant district attorney. I'm not sure.
The federal prosecutor.
Okay, federal fucking prosecutor, and you were married at the time, and you're still married to the same woman, and I've never met your wife. I don't know a lot about your wife, Lou, but I know every time you talk about her, you have nothing but incredible things to say. But man, it goes without saying, kudos to her for weathering that storm with you, and that's a good woman, man. I know I don't live within the four walls of your house. I don't know what goes on, but in that instance, it's something to be proud of that she stuck through you through all that.
Yeah, it was a tough road, but there was some tense times, and there was, she's a strong Latina, and she believes in family and God, and
you probably learned to fucking duck, didn't you?
Conquest, man. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife, she's from Phoenix, and she'd go to her friends' houses, and their grandmas just fucking take off and start beating the shit out of them with shoes. So then my wife always threatens the kids with the fucking chunclata, the shoe.
That's right.
So now the kids they start wrestling, and they're like, "I'm gonna get you with the chunclata," and they start beating the shit out of each other with their shoes. So it's it's fun to watch. I think it's badass, man, that you stuck through. You waited it out until they said we got nothing, and I bet you that was some sweet fucking release that day that report came out. I bet you probably had about one of those erections you have to go to the hospital for that lasts longer than 4 or 5 hours.
One of them 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
But so I found myself retiring, and not only is there not a big market in the private sector for a former undercover agent, none of those skills are very transferable to anything in the private sector.
Yeah.
But now, if you Googled me, you weren't seeing a lot of good shit about my career, right? So I had both of those things kind of working against me. And I'm 48 years old and I'm retired. I was a Fed for 26 years. So you can retire either at the age of 50 with 20 years or at any age with 25 years.
Yeah.
So I had 26 years and I retired, but I was only 48. I started when I was 22.
Jeez, man.
And so this guy tracked me down from South Magazine, a great magazine down here in Georgia, Florida.
I've seen the cover.
Carolinas. Yeah, he said, "Listen, man, I know about your story, and I want to have you in the magazine." And I wasn't. That was like the last thing I wanted to do was get any more press, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I lived my whole life being invisible, and my first taste of being in the paper sure wasn't very good, right? So. But eventually he said, "Listen, man," he goes, "what do you want?" And I said, "Man, I want for my son to not Google my name and see all this crap, untrue crap about me." And he said, "Well, you got to bury it with good shit then."
Yeah.
And he talked me into doing it, and I did it. And he actually put me on the cover and did a really good article. And that kind of, all of a sudden I started getting calls from reality TV producers and from and people were saying, "Man, you got to write a book. You got to write a book." And his name is Michael Brooks, the owner of the magazine, actually kind of helped me out and got me going. And through him, he introduced me to my literary agent, who represented my book and got me a publisher. My literary agent introduced me to my Hollywood agent, who took the book and sold it to LBI, which is Rick Yorn's company, and the producer there, Matty Lesham, who is now going to be in charge of making it, he's getting me with the screenwriter, and so it kind of just evolved like that. And
Yeah.
everyone kind of has the same, when they read the book and they hear me talk about what went on, they see the same possibility of a multi-season series. Because I tell you what, only about 20% of what happened is in the book. There was so much more that I just wanted it to be a short, quick read. So, there's so much more.
I hope it fucking happens for you.
So that's awesome.
I really do.
Yeah, it's great.
When, I guess you talk about that moment moments where you were feeling like down enough that you want to take your own life. You're kind of leaning on alcohol, and you just didn't know where you're going to be at the next hour. Is there anything that kind of like, that kind of puts you over the hump, or something you look towards that said, okay, I'm going to fucking get through this, or anyone that patted you on the back and said, hey man?
Yeah, for sure. The first night I sat in my room, and put my gun in my mouth because I didn't see any way out. I thought about my kids, right? And I didn't want, this sounds crazy, but I didn't want to lose my wife would lose my benefits if I committed suicide, right? Yeah. So I decided I'm not going to do this. I'm going to make it look like an accident. So that my wife and my kids would get my benefits. And then the next day, we went to a psychiatrist, my wife and I, and cause she knew what was up. And we sat there with the psychiatrist, and my wife turned to me and she looked at me and she goes, if you do what I think you're going to do, she goes, I'll make sure your son knows you were a piece of shit. Wow. And that was the last thought I ever had of doing something like that.
Yeah.
So that's what brought me out of that.
Man, tough love right there, brother.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough as it is. I mean, it's like
you
the toughest way she
though.
can say, like, yeah, this is totally selfish. Yeah. Like, it's not just you; it's all of us.
Yep. You're right on.
But man. I mean, I feel like if she didn't say it that tough, though, it wouldn't have hit the same way. You know what I mean? Like if
absolutely.
Right, and that thought probably still would have lingered and still would have been there, but that's just she knew what to say and when to say it, and I mean that's one more point for her.
That was a fucking gut punch, man.
Yeah,
it was. When my wife and I first got together, there was this dude that was still obsessing over, and he was calling. We had flip phones, and he just calling, and I'm like, just fucking answer it. And she answers it. She puts it on speaker. And he's like, she came to me in Ohio, and he was still back west. And he's like, if you don't come back here and live with me, I'm gonna fucking kill myself. And she's like, well, then fucking kill yourself. And at that moment, I'm like, God damn, she's wild.
Wait, that's tough love right there.
Yeah.
That dude never called back, so I guess the point. Got the point across. That's good shit.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the frankest form of communication is always the most effective. I mean,
yep.
Oh, Lou, I'm glad we got the other half of your story, and you do have a website, LouVelosi.com, where people can go. You got the links to. I went there. You can get a good deal. You can get some undercover videos of Lou working. You can get all kinds of behind-the-scenes shit on there. So there's a special deal for all that, if I think I'm correct in saying that, Lou?
Yes.
And everyone be patient. There's things on the horizon. If we all cross our fingers and cross our toe knuckles, we can make this shit happen. If any of these Hollywood execs need to talk to someone distinguished, like the Brohio podcast,
very reputable.
You send them our way.
Yep.
And I would like to make you an offer if I got like 1,000 different voices. I can do them. If you need someone to record your audio book for free, I'll do that for you. Just you tell me when, where, what time, and I'll have it knocked out for you. I think a month or something like that would be a fair assessment for something like that. So that's my offer to you. If you'd like someone to record that for you, I'd be happy to do it. I know you've been thinking about
that.
Okay.
You got a studio?
I'm in it, dude.
Yeah.
Right. Let's talk afterward for sure.
Okay, and I would love to do that for you because you're missing out by not having it on
Audible.
Yeah.
Audible book or Audible, and because a lot of people like me, you didn't use a lot of big words in that book, but I'm just not a strong reader, but I go to Google sometimes when I don't understand shit. I can put 2 and 2 together. So that would be an honor to do.
Here's my request to the Brohio podcast.
Sure.
If, it's a big if, but if a series gets made, I don't know if you guys have had any 3-peat guests on, but if you guys can turn your TV on someday and storefront the series is on, I want to be a 3-peat guest and come back on and talk about the show.
Here's
beautiful. Yeah.
Here is our promise to you. If this happens, we will pack up the studio in my fucking Ford Fusion. We'll drive our diabetic asses down to Georgia, and we'll do this someplace. We'll sit down. We'll have a cocktail. We got all kinds of expensive bourbon, Lou. I don't know if you drink bourbon or not, but we've got some good shit here. We'll bring open bottles with us. We don't fucking care. And we'll come crash the party, man. We'd love to meet you, and that would be well worth the trip. We could do a live show.
Yeah, we'll celebrate. Yeah. We'll have a good time.
Cool, man. All right, I got the bar. We'll do it from a bar.
Beautiful. Yeah.
My neighborhood bar.
That would be great.
Hell yeah. And I told you I had something. That's not even the surprise because I told you I had a surprise for you.
All right.
I want to do something called, I love this because he's former federal agent. He's going to get fucking hot under the collar. We're going to call this the conspiracy lightning round. I'm going to give you a topic, and you can say true, false, or no comment. Okay? And I'm not going to go anything super new because I know how polarizing some of these conspiracies can be. But you just kind of, you tell me what Lou thinks. Okay? And you can say no comment if you want. But the first question, this is the conspiracy lightning round. The JFK shooting. Inside job by the government or exactly as the government described with Lee Harvey Oswald? Or no comment?
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Rob's over there like, this motherfucker. the moon landing, fake or real?
Real.
Okay. He's a true government. The assassination of Osama bin Laden. It happened or it didn't?
It did.
Okay. Yeah. One of my best friends was on the naval the carrier when they brought the body back on, and he said they moved everybody to a hole and they said nobody could fucking come out, and they had an entire ship pinned back. He has a pretty cool story about that. But yeah,
that's a real deal there.
Yeah. Adolf Hitler died at the end of World War II, or he escaped to another country.
I think that's a possibility.
Okay.
Escape is a possibility.
Argentina.
Yep.
Especially when you look into like all of like was it Paperclip?
Yep.
Yeah, where we got all their good scientists. Yeah, I mean it's
fair trade.
Yep.
Area 51, UFO or weather balloon?
UFO for sure.
Fuck yeah, man! There we go.
I like to hear it.
This one, you're gonna laugh. You're gonna sit back in your chair. The CIA caused the crack epidemic in L.A. in the 1990s.
True.
No fucking hesitation. 9/11 was an inside job or exactly as described by the terrorists?
Exactly as described.
Okay. The Clinton family is responsible for over 90 dead bodies. True or false? No comment.
Well over 90.
The earth is flat. True or false?
I think that's false.
Okay. Tom Brady is a cheater. True or false?
He's the greatest quarterback of all time.
For sure.
Did he maybe bend the rules like they all do? Maybe, probably, but deflating a football. He still won the fucking Super Bowl 6 times?
A lot of times.
2. Yeah.
Big dick energy too.
For sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can't Listen, if you're hating on him, it's just because you don't like his teams. I mean, there's no arguing, like him or not. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the fucking greatest.
People hate success. They really do, especially sports fans.
That gets me to my last conspiracy lightning round question. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to win the Super Bowl this coming up football season.
That's a huge no.
Oh!
That one hurts.
Come on, man. Why you gotta do us like that? Everything was going in the right direction. This interview was perfect, just like last time. And then my guy Joe Burrow, you can't even stand up for him, man.
I don't know. Ohio needs to stick with college football. It's a great college football state.
I don't. I think things are changing, man. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. What professional team do you follow?
Well, here's the deal. I follow. My daughter loves Tom Brady, so I follow. Now I'm a Tampa guy.
Sure.
Because of my daughter.
Yep. I
can respect that.
I liked Mike Allstott when I was younger, so I liked the Buccaneers for now, just because
Allstott was the best.
Yeah.
I grew up in Tampa, so it was cool to see like the whole Allstott era and Trent Dilfer and all them and Warren Work done.
Yep.
Yeah. It was a good time.
You grew up in Tampa. Would you take a wrong turn?
Hey, I was a kid. I had no choice in the matter.
Fucking adopted.
A suburb of Tampa. Yeah, it was quite a weird place.
Florida's got a strange vibe, but it's nice weather.
Yeah, that's about all you can say.
Yeah, it's
Ohio with a fucking ocean, man.
Yeah.
Right, pretty much. Yeah.
It's where our country goes to die.
Have you ever been to Ohio before?
Yeah, I was doing my last undercover operation I did was in Cleveland when it all I got called back.
That's a fucking shithole.
Yeah, it was rough, man. Cleveland was rough.
They've cleaned it up a lot, but yeah, it's been a shithole for a long time.
You know, I went to college in Pennsylvania. Ohio is very similar to Pennsylvania.
It is.
Same kind of people.
Yeah. What you played college football, am I right?
Yeah.
What position?
Lafayette.
What position did you play?
I was an offensive tackle.
Really?
Oh, huh.
Yeah.
You stop eating ding dongs after you graduated, or what the fuck happened, man?
Yeah, man. I was about 302.
Holy shit! Wow.
That's awesome.
A lot of pizza and beer.
Yeah. Well, Lou Velosi, thank you so much for being on the show. You guys can go to louvelosi.com, get all the details for the book. I'm going to put the link for the book in the episode description so you guys can click, read it. It's a quick read. You lay down for a couple nights, you'll have it, you'll gobble it up. It's good shit. Lou poured his heart into it. There's more stuff on the horizon. You're welcome on the show anytime, and I'm taking you up on that shit, man.
For sure.
If
everything pans out,
if I go turn on one of my streaming services or one of my local channels and I see Storefront Statesboro Blues or whatever they call it, I'm going to come calling. You don't change your phone number. Because
No, I was just going to say, I'm not going to Hollywood you guys. If it happens, I'm coming back. All right. I love the Brohio podcast, and I will be back.
Thank you. Well,
we got to keep on chipping away at Mel Chauncey also. So.
So he's under contract with The Rock. So
I know. He already told me.
Podcast. So
I told him he was a punk ass bitch, and he was like, the Lord. He said, "I'm gonna pray for you, man," because I know he's kind of turned away from that kill you lifestyle, so I can talk trash to him. No, I didn't.
I'm good.
He was sweetheart. He was a sweetheart when he wrote back, and he actually sent us a video message and said, "Hey, man, I'm tied up in some paperwork with the Rock's company,
Hey, you can't shake that away.
That's all right.
You want me to talk to Murph and Pena? You guys want to?
That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
If you guys shoot me an email, and I'll do an email between us.
That'd be great.
Okay. And I'm going to stop recording now. So everyone, thanks for tuning in to this episode. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.